If someone listening is still embarrassed to talk about their poop, then I would encourage you to shed that, shed the shame or embarrassment. We talk about poop all day. We love it. We enjoy it. This is part of being a human, number one, being a healthy human, number two, because if you're not pooping, you're reabsorbing toxins, whether that's xenoestrogens from environmental exposure or pesticide and herbicide or mold toxins. I mean, how we get rid of our toxic waste and chemicals and things we're making internally and that we're exposed to is peeing and pooping. And so when you look at someone who feels bad, they have dark circles under their eyes, they have skin issues, they're irritable, they're fatigued, they have headaches. A lot of times constipation is one of the underlying issues with those people. And if we can just get them pooping properly, good amount, good shape, good size, good consistency, good frequency, we can really increase their productivity, their energy, their mental cognition. We can get rid of sugar cravings. I mean, there's a lot that can happen when you just regulate the bowel. So we're going to dive in today on some of the big root causes, root triggers. I'm going to go straight to number one for me, which is going to be gut infections. Now, you and I were just talking before we hit record about different gut bugs and how some people with IBS, they'll end up IBS-C, constipation, others end up IBS-D, diarrhea. And so depending on what type of infections you have, your bowels may become dysregulated.
100%. And so when you have different gut stressors, slow motility can easily be a result. So you can easily see on the fast side, when motility is too fast, our body doesn't have the ability to reabsorb water and electrolytes in time, because usually electrolytes and water kind of follow each other. So as the colon kind of pulls out the electrolytes, usually the water comes out with it. And so when we have slower bowel movements, right, they're usually harder, more compact kind of stools. So if we look at, like, for instance, the Bristol stool chart, I'll pull that up on screen so anyone that's watching the podcast can take a look at it. The Bristol stool chart is a chart that's used by gastroenterologists and such, but it's just a way of kind of assessing where your stool fits. So the typical number 4 is like the poopy policeman. And that's like the really good, solid looking snake-like, not overly hard, not overly soft stool. That's number 1. If you go to the actual number 1 on the Bristol stool chart, that's like kind of the rabbit poop, right? The rabbit pellet's really hard to move. And then number 7 is just pure liquid. And so 4 is kind of right in the middle and in between. So let me just show you what I'm talking about here so you guys can visualize if you're watching the podcast video along with it. So here is the Bristol stool chart so you guys can see. Okay, so number 1, right? Separate, hard clumps, nuts, hard to pass. This is like the rabbit poop, right? That's type 1. And then it gently progresses back to 2 and 3, right? Where it starts to get more sausage shape like, except it gets more smoother as it goes to 3. And then step type 4 is the perfect poopy policeman, kind of more of a sausage like, more smooth, not overly cracked or not overly soft. And then you can see as you go to 5 and 6, it becomes more liquid. And then 7 is just entirely liquid, watery, no solid. And so that gives us a pretty good window. And so usually when the gut's really inflamed and we have usually a lot of toxicity in the gut, we can usually see it go to number 7 where it's pure liquid. And that's because the body is just trying to flush things out. And when things go a little bit slower, you could still have inflammation and have type 1, right? So you could have H. pylori, that's lowering stomach acid. You could have a lot of SIBO that's producing a lot of methane-based gases. And how do you know it's methane is you have a lot of foul-smelling gas or flatulence. That's a sign that there's a lot of methane present. And methane can easily screw up that migrating motor complex and make the bowels go more on the slow side. But you can have the same level of infections like H. pylori or maybe E. histo or Giardia, and that could also cause it to go on the diarrhea side. So it just kind of depends. Everyone's a little bit different, but you could have SIBO, you could have H. pylori, you could have low enzyme and low acid levels that could easily be causing type 1. But for someone else, those same infections could easily be driving type 7, right? Where it's pure liquid. So you got to look at everyone as an individual on that and really, come up with the right plan.
Yeah. And it can alternate too, right? I mean, that was my situation when
it can.
I first had gut issues and I was losing weight uncontrollably when I had H. pylori and parasites and bacterial overgrowth and candida, the whole 9 yards. There'd be some days the gut was good and most days the gut was not good. Luckily, I'm over that now. But man, I'll tell you, I have a lot of empathy for people that, you never know what you're going to get. You kind of wake up and it's like, is today a good day or not a good day? And Now that I've learned so much, you and I both, over the past few years about mold toxicity, that's a big trigger for gut issues too. Some get constipated, but a lot have diarrhea. And I think that's the body's way of trying to get rid of the toxin, but also the gut is so irritated, and you can have leaky gut from mycotoxin exposure that can be a factor too. So eventually we'll get into the gut healing phase of our conversation. I think that's critical to healing constipation.
100%. And so on the constipation side, there could be issues with, obviously the bowel motility has to be slow. So what's constipation? So if you're not having a BM, if you're not passing about 12 inches of stool in about a 24-hour period, that's typically constipation. And there are millions of people in this country that aren't able to have a BM every day. Now, once you start going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I've seen some patients that go up to 7 days without a BM. That's a problem, because half of your stool is going to be bacteria. The other half is going to be, fiber and such. And within that stool, some of that bacteria and toxins needs to leave your body. If you're not having that pass through your intestinal tract into the toilet, your chance of reabsorbing a lot of those toxins goes up really high. That's definitely not good, because those toxins get reabsorbed into your body. There could be xenoestrogens, there could be mold toxins, there could be a whole bunch of junk in there that you could be reabsorbing, and that could be really stressing out your body. So the first thing we talk about with detoxification is people talk about detox, 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 right? Well, if you're not pooping every day, and that's because of a gut infection or not chewing your food well enough, or having insufficient hydrochloric acid or enzyme levels, or having some kind of a H. pylori or SIBO issue, all of those things can easily affect your detoxification. People are really focused on detox. Just by getting your digestion and your motility better, that makes a huge difference on your liver and all your detoxification pathways, your lymphatics, your immune, everything.